Hello, everybody. Good to see you. Thank you for joining me. We had a little bit of technical difficulties this afternoon, so I apologize if you were looking for us over on Facebook. Some days Facebook would like to cooperate. Other days it doesn't quite feel like it. So I apologize if you were over there and you had to run over to YouTube. But the important thing is you're here. So I'm thankful that you chose to spend a little time with me today. And I hope that everything in your world is going well. I would love it if you would put over in the comments where you're watching from. It's always fun to see where people are watching from. And my big question for you this month is, have you hand quilted a quilt? Like a whole quilt, not, it could be a small quilt, but not just like tried it for like, I don't know, 8 inches or something and said you're done. Like, have you hand quilted a quilt? So yes or no? I personally, I will tell you, mine is yes, one, and that was plenty. I'm not a big hand quilter. I love machine quilting. I think that I just get bored too fast. It's like it doesn't happen quick enough for me. I want to like move forward, and hand quilting is one of those things that are just too slow. However, I love to hand sew a binding down. So that's still a slow process, and I really enjoy that, sitting in front of the TV and hand sewing a binding down, especially with a cat in my lap. That's even better. So anyway, hand quilted a quilt. Have you? Yes or no? Put that in the comments and where you're from too as well. So I'm just so thankful that you joined us, and I want to remind you to go ahead and sign up for our Quilted Joy newsletter. We have a lot of great worksheets and tutorials and events and specials, and especially headed into Christmas, we've got a lot of great information for you in the newsletter. So do go ahead and sign up, and if you add we send that out from Quilt Fairies at quiltedjoy.com. If you put that in your contact list, it will tell your email provider that you actually want to see our newsletter, and it won't get pushed down to where it's hard to find with other stuff in your inbox. So it's Quilt Fairies at quiltedjoy.com. That's the email address that we use to send out that newsletter. So add that to your contact list. And then, so it's November. So last month, we had a limited edition glide pack, and we have a new one for November, and I love this one. This one is Fire Sprite, so our fairy Fire Sprite put together this limited edition thread pack, and it will only be available for November. And the colors are just spectacular. So there's 3 colors. There's bronze, burnt orange, and wildfire. Wildflower, wow, that'd be cool too, but it's wildflower. And they're in 2 sizes, so you can get the mini cone, which is the 1,000 meter, or you can get the king cone of glide, which is the 5,000 meter. But we got you a special price and a little special bundle of those threads that look beautiful together. So that's the Fire Sprite thread pack. And then we had a whole lot of fun. I hope that you joined us in October, because we had a whole bunch of Halloween themed free motion worksheets that you could download, and it had drawing instructions, and it taught you how to do a lot of free motion Halloween themed borders and corners and things like that, sashing designs. And now we have one coming into November that's all about holiday cheer. So I've got a bunch of worksheets for you that you can download, that you can play, that you can learn designs, and we've got them stepped out so you can see how they work. But you will need to sign up to get those worksheets. So you can go, Kelsey, it's on the home page, right?
Not yet, it will be today.
Okay.
The link is also in the description right now.
Okay, so look for the link in the description, and then later this afternoon it will be on the home page at quiltedjoy.com, where you can sign up, and then you'll start to get those in your inbox once a day. And we've got it's over a week's worth of content that you'll get each day, each morning, and you'll be able to print those out, and you can save those and put those in a binder and play with them. And some will feel friendly and some may not, so focus on the ones that feel friendly. I personally, you're gonna see one of them is I'll give it away. It's a drum. I really love the drum. So for those Christmas quilts you've got coming up, join us with our holiday free motion worksheets and have a little fun, have a little playtime with your machine. It's for sit down and stand up machines, both. And then we're going to do a live chat and Ask Me Anything on November the 17th. And we've had a lot of folks request that we put that in both the Clubhouse on Facebook as well as on our YouTube channel. So we're hoping that Facebook cooperates with us on that day. And if it does, then you'll find it in both places. So November the 17th, and that's a Wednesday at 1 o'clock Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific. And if you've got any questions for me, you want to know something, I will be happy to answer it. So I will see you there. It's always fun. We just chat, and I think last time I showed you guys some photos of the last recording that we did for Love of Quilting out in Denver, as well as my recent trip. I went to Holland, Michigan, and found some cool stuff up there. So just fun stuff, stuff that's on my mind, and some quilty stuff too. So do join us November 17th at 1. Okay, so we have been spending 2021 talking about grids. And I really hope that you, if you've followed along with us, that you have found how versatile grids are and how approachable they are no matter what your skill level is. One of the great things about grids is it just takes a scary open space and kind of divides it down into smaller spaces. So it's just easier to approach and not so intimidating. So last month we did ghost grids, and that was fun because it was our spooky Halloween version of our Clubhouse. So it was ghost grids. And this month we're going to talk a little bit more about checkerboards. So of course you've got like traditional diagonal cross hatching, which would be considered a grid. You can even have grids that are hexagons or diagonal or diamonds or circles or octagons, like whatever geometric shape you can stack, whether it's a square or some kind of polygon, a triangle, whatever you can stack, you can make a grid out of. So we're going to look at checkerboards and how to use checkerboards either in a block or in negative space or in a border or sashing design. Okay, so I've got a grid up here on the screen, Kelsey. And what I've done is I've just got it as a 4x4 grid. So this could be a 1-inch grid, a 2-inch grid. I don't know that I would go much bigger than that. It kind of depends on how much you're going to fill. So the first thing that I would do is I would go ahead and just stitch in the ditch all the way around to stabilize where I'm putting that grid in here. And then I'm going to sneak down the grid to this first intersection here. I'm going to sneak down that ditch and do the next intersection of my grid. Sneak down the ditch, do this one. I'm going to sneak down the ditch and up. And now I'm going to go back over this way. So the first thing I'm going to do is just stabilize and stitch my horizontal grid. And this is the path that I take. I'm going to go back up here to the top so that I have done it all in one continuous path. And now I'm ready to fill that grid. And before I do we have anybody, Jesse and Brad, do we have anybody say whether they have hand quilted a quilt?
Definitely lots of yeses.
Lots of yeses.
A couple no's, but a resounding once was enough.
Once was enough, yeah. Now I do have friends. I have one friend, her name is Sandy, and she can hand quilt like lightning. She is so fast and it's so beautiful, and she'll bring out this big king size quilt and she'll be like, yeah, I just finished hand quilting it. I'm like, I don't know how you do that so quickly. But yes, it was too slow for me as well. Okay, and were there any questions? If you guys have questions, go ahead and put them in the chat and then they'll let me know. But we're talking about this horizontal grid. So we've got a horizontal grid and now we're gonna fill it. And so the first thing I'm gonna show you, and it's similar to kind of that ghost grid that we did last month, if you watched last month, but I'm gonna make this one a little more dense. So I ended in this top corner up here, and I'm just gonna do little wiggly worm, spaghetti, refrigerator coils. The only thing is that when I stop, I wanna make sure that I come to a halt in this bottom corner, this bottom intersection of the grid, because that will allow me to sneak down. So to this next square, this next checkerboard on my grid. Now notice this first one, I went east-west, west-east. So this next one, I'm going to go north-south, south-north, north-south. And I'm going to make it a wiggly worm. And I just want to be sure that when I end here. And that will allow me to drop down to the next square on my grid. And now this one, because I did that one north-south, this one will be east-west. All right, I'm going to pick up a little bit of speed here. And I'm doing every one. So if you watch the ghost grids, okay, so now watch, I ended here because I need a little secret passageway to get over to my next column. If you watched our ghost grids last month, we did something similar to this, but I did not stitch the grid first. I marked the grid, marked the square, and then filled in every other, not every one, and that got us our ghost grid. And I don't know that I would do this any bigger than a 2-inch. This is like the, I don't know, the lazy version of a basket weave. Okay, so I'm going to end up here at the top again so that I can drop in. So just like everything with free motion quilting, I'm wanting to be a little bit aware of where my little magic portals are that I can drop into different spaces so that I have access and a travel route to access my new spaces. I'm gonna head down here and access this one. So I would call this a basket weave. Maybe it's a spaghetti basket. It's a wormy basket. I don't know. There's probably a better word for that. But it's like a kind of a free improv basket weave. Final one to fill that in. All right, and I'm done. Okay, so let's take it to the machine and then I want to show you a different one. Okay, so I've got the grid stitched out here on my APQS Millie. I do have the ruler foot on. I have an orange thread, an orange glide thread. I believe this one is Halloween, just to make sure that it pops against this green. And I have an 18 needle in, and I do have my stitch regulator on. And so we're just going to fill this grid just like we did on the computer. Change my tension just a little. And if you have any questions, pop those into the chat. So this one, it's a little more free form than, you know, a more formal quilt you might want for a more formal quilt. Oh, and so here I am talking to you and I ended up here. And so I've kind of blocked myself in, right? Because I didn't end in this portal that I talked to you about, but no worries. I got a magic little super highway here and I'm all good. So use your seams to travel and don't feel like you've, you know, failed just because you've blocked yourself in somewhere. It happens. Last one. All right, so let's take a look at that. Can you see it okay, Kelsey? Not yet, okay. There we go. So a little more freeform, right? A little more improv. So let's look at how to button this up a little bit to make it a little bit more formal that could fit in a less whimsical space. So we're back to the grid and I'm just going to take these out. Brad, Jesse, we got any questions?
Just wanted to asking if that's Glide that we're using?
Yeah, I think it's safety orange, is it? Yeah, so it is definitely Glide, and it is a bright orange thread so that you can see it here. I like the safety orange. I like the Halloween color. Either one are great. I was looking for that little screwdriver that we had, Kelsey, and I can't. You got it? Let me snag it real quick, if I can. Okay, so we're going to talk about, thank you, about a little bit more formal design, a little bit more basket weave design. And just while I'm getting ready here, has anybody used any of our grid designs in their projects this year? If you have, just pop over there in the chat and tell me yes or no. It's always, we do get people who send in photos of things that they've used our designs on, that they've learned on the Clubhouse. I mean, they're not our designs. These are perennial designs that a million billion people have used throughout the years. I'm just showing you the way that I accomplish them. But it's always fun to see how others, what they put on their quilts. So if you have used them on your quilt, pop them over there in the chat. I would love to know. And, oh, there it is. I missed my little stylus. Did we have any questions that came through, Brad? And
Yeah, Shelly wants to know how much basting do you do on the quilt before you start stitching?
Hi, Shelly. So basting on a quilt, if I'm talking about a sit-down machine, a domestic machine, I'm going to baste a lot. I'm going to baste it where there's nothing that is bigger than my fist that is unbasted. For a long arm machine, I only deal with what's between my bars. I don't worry about everything else. So I would baste the left side across the top and down the right side just between my bars. So that whatever, 18 inches, 22 inches, it depends on the size throat of your long arm machine. And then work inside the bars, that space, and then roll it forward, based on the left side, based on the right side, and work between my bars. So it's a little different approach depending on which type of machine that you're working on. But you know, I don't want to baste on a long arm machine the way I would on a sit-down machine, because I'd have to take all that out and it would just slow me down, and there's really no need to do so because the frame kind of holds everything in position. Do we have any other questions?
Joanne was asking.
Hey, Joanne.
If we have to use the ruler foot or if a regular foot will work.
So I have the ruler foot on here, which is for an APQS machine. That's the default foot that gets shipped with the machine. Of course, there are many, many other feet that you can put on your long arm machine. And that's the foot that I want for this, because I'm using a ruler to go around that outside edge in the seam to stitch in the ditch, and I would use a ruler to do those horizontal and vertical lines that we did before where we stitched the grid. So it's going to be easier for me to use a ruler for that than to use channel locks for that, because typically I'm using a space or a pieced block that the seams were made by a human, so they may not be perfect. So a channel lock probably won't work very well. So a ruler, and I want to have a ruler foot when I do that. If you aren't going to use a ruler, if you're just going to use channel locks and it's all going to be free motion, then you might consider putting an open-toed foot on so that you can see a little bit better, see the needle a little bit better. Kind of play with the different feet that you have for your machine. There's so many great ones, but I want the ruler foot anytime I'm going to be using a ruler on my machine. All right, so we're going to do a more formal basket weave. And for this one, what I want you to imagine, I'm going to change my colors here, because there's some thought process. I want you to imagine for each of these squares where that center, that meridian line is. Okay, so there's an imaginary meridian line there, and that will divide the space in half, and then that will give you an eyeball way to see where the halvesy of the north side is and the halvesy of the south side is. All right, so that's what we're trying to imagine. Hopefully I can take away every one of those little dots. I didn't think about that. Every one of those little dots is information the computer might go, okay, oh good. All right, let me take them all out. And by the way, I'm just using a free program. It's called GIMP. And there are so many out there. Don't think this is the only one. It's just the one that I grabbed. And then I'm drawing on it using a drawing tablet that's made by Wacom. I don't know, I think I spent $60 on it. It's not expensive. Okay, so we're going to imagine that meridian line that we just talked about, and we're going to imagine that line that was just above it. And so that's the first line that I want to make, is I want to do my first line in that halvesy of my north side, and then I'm going to sneak down this ditch, essentially, go through the middle, the imaginary middle, go down and divide that in half, and go down to the intersection. And now I'm going to go over. So again, I am imagining where the half is, and then I'm imagining then where the half of that is. So I've gone over, and now I'm going to go down, going to the middle, going to the halvesy, sneak, halvesy, sneak, middle, halvesy, halvesy, sneak, middle. And again, depending on how you attack this, you'll end up in a different place and how many blocks you have. I'm just going to sneak across the ditch. And so if this one next door here, if this one is going north-south, then this next one needs to go east-west. So this one went east-west, now I need to go north-south. Halvesy, middle, and up. And maybe I'll just do 2 columns of this, Kelsey, and then I'll take it to the machine. So it's similar to what we just did, except these are straight lines. I'm going to head over and keep on. Okay, so if there's any questions, put them there in the chat, but I'm going to go ahead. Oh, I have this one up here. And I think I'm actually going to start with this top one going north-south rather than east-west. And I'm using, this is one of my favorites. This is by Quilter's Groove. This is the Pro Mini. There are lots of great straight edge rulers out there. This one it's smaller, and I don't know, it can fit my hands, and it makes sense to my brain the way that it's marked. So if you have a ruler that makes sense to your brain, embrace it. It's always a good idea. So I've done one horizontal. I'm going to go through, and I'm going to do the next in the middle. Yeah, and then I'm going to go over, and I'm going to come down. And now I'm ready to sneak over. So those went north-south. So my next ones need to go east-west. And I wouldn't get all bunched up and like mark all these and make sure that my middle is exactly my middle, because once you build this out, it's going to be hard for the eye to see where you weren't perfectly in the center. There's just too much going on, but you could use your channel locks for this. It would just, this one is going to go a little slower because you're trying to be more precise, which is why that wiggly worm one is one of my favorites, because it just goes a whole lot faster. But for a more formal quilt, this one's perfect. Now I do want you to notice, you could also use your hopping foot itself as a guide. So these are 1-inch squares. My hopping foot from one side to the other is a 1/2 inch with my needle in the dead center in the 1/4 inch. So I could use my hopping foot kind of as a guide as well to know where to hit those intersections. And I am being cautious about turning my machine on and off, so I am triggering the needle to fire and to stop once I'm going to sneak down my little magic superhighway here so that I'm not moving the machine, moving the ruler while the machine is on. And I don't think that I would go any smaller than a 1-inch grid, because this would get really tedious. Now I say that, and I have a lot of long arm friends who would be like, oh no, this one's perfect on a tiny little grid. I think, so we're back to my patience level, right? We're back to that topic. So maybe the moral of the story is I need more patience. So we'll just do 2 columns of this one too. I think you'll get the idea. So this was east-west, so my next one is going to be north-south. So I'm just going to head over and up. And so a smaller straight edge ruler for this is going to be nice because you can pivot more easily than a big long ruler. But I will say big long rulers have their use as well. All right, so that one was north-south. So this one is going to be east-west. So there's my halvesy. There's my middle. And then I need to go up the ditch and through. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and break my thread, and I'm just gonna take some little tacking stitches here at the end and bring my bobbin thread up to the top and cut my threads. And then we'll take a look at just this 2 column. So there's the 2 column basket weave, and we would just build that out. Okay, so let's look at one more idea. Do we have any questions about that?
I do. I have a question from Colleen about how do you stitch in the ditch on seams that have been pressed open?
Hey, Colleen. So seams that have been pressed open, unfortunately, I don't want you going right in the ditch because, Colleen, you'll actually pierce the piecing thread and you'll knock a hole in your patchwork. So if it has been pressed open, that may dictate how you approach the area. You could make the choice, if you have an open seam, to stitch just to the side of it, so like 1/8 of an inch to the side of where, and like declare a new ditch. It kind of depends on the contrast level of the fabrics that you're using and the thread that you're using, just if that's gonna like smack you in the face or if it's gonna kind of melt away. But if you have a seam that's pressed open, it's probably going to be the driving factor of what you choose to put on that quilt. I'm not a huge fan of seams that are pressed open. I know that there's a lot of folks lately who do it, but I don't know if those are the same folks who are quilting the quilt as well. Any other questions?
Yeah, Nance was asking where she would get a different foot for her long arm machine.
Hey, Nance. So each manufacturer has different feet. So I would start with contacting your manufacturer. So like APQS, there's a scoop foot, I call it a ninja foot, so it's a high foot on the back but open-toed in the front. There's a low profile foot that's open-toed, but you can't use rulers with it because it's low profile in the back. I mean, there's all different kinds of feet. So whatever manufacturer you have, and for your domestic machine as well, check with them because there are lots and lots of different feet. Now you want to be sure that your machine is set up, your long arm machine especially, is set up to take the foot. So for example, if you have an older APQS machine, and oh goodness, this is like trivia night. I want to say in 2012, I want to say, is when APQS introduced the ability to put different feet on. It was a interchangeable hopping foot. And you could certainly have older APQS machines retrofitted to take different feet. But as far as when that feature became standard, I want to say it was 2012. And if you have a different brand long arm machine, just check with them and make sure that your machine is set up to take a different foot. Because if you have an older vintage machine, it may not have been set up to do that. And then they can help you kind of select which foot it is that you want to use. But the most common foot you're going to use is that ruler foot, that 1/4 inch ruler foot. I would say the second most common foot that I use on my APQS Millennium is a scoop foot. It's like a little teacup on the end of the foot and it just kind of floats over things. But if you have a different brand machine, I'm sure they would call it something else. So just check and see which one that you like. Any other questions that came through? Nope. All right, awesome. Okay, so I just wanted to show you that while we can create a grid using and fill that grid in a dense manner, we can also kind of use the grid to create almost a patchwork design. So I've got this same grid that we worked with, and this time I'm just going to go and start out first by just doing diagonal lines here. across the quilt, across however long I need to go. And then I'm going to head back and I'm going to do those same little wormy, spaghetti, refrigerator coil. And so I did, if we think about this as north-south, so I did the north side of my diagonal first. And so when I come back here, I'm going to do the south. So I'm going to go back and forth. I'm going to alternate which side of the diagonal I fill. So that was the south. So now I'm going to fill the north side of the diagonal with just a wormy wiggle stitch. And now I'm going to do the south side. Just a wormy wiggle stitch. And now I'm going to drop down into this next level of my house. And I'm going to do the same diagonal. Okay, so now what I want to do is I want to look up and say, okay, for this one I did the north side is filled and the south side is empty. So I need to mash down, I need to meet this emptiness with filler. So I'm going to match it, I'm going to meet it, and if you notice what happens, then it kind of kisses across the aisle the filler on that side. All right, so I did this top left side of my diagonal, so now I'm going to do the bottom side. So again, it's just alternating back and forth and back and forth and forth and back. So I did, now I'm going to do the top side, so I can kiss across the aisle there, and then I'm going to do the bottom. All right, and then I'm going to sneak down the ditch, and then I'm going to just repeat it. And I'm going to go on my diagonals. I don't know what happened there. And then I'm going to repeat what I did on that first row. So I did the top side. I'm going to go a little faster here, so it'll be a little messier, but you get the idea now. Bottom side, the top side, the bottom side, and now I'm going to drop down. And I'm ready to do my diagonals. And then this is empty, so I need to fill this side. So do you see I'm creating like hourglass units? Do you guys call them hourglass units or do you call them quarter square triangles? It's this hot debate that I have with myself every time. I'm not sure why there's, well, I guess there's double names for everything in quilting, but it seems like something super common like this, we'd have a super common name. But I guess the same thing could be said with quarter square triangles or triangle squares or half square triangles as well. But anyway, put in the chat if you call them hourglasses or quarter square triangles. So you can create a patchwork look out of a grid. And so I've got a 2-inch grid here, and I've already stitched the actual grid. So let's do our diagonal. So I'm going to put my ruler a 1/4 inch away from where the intersection is that I want the needle to hit, and that will compensate for that 1/4 inch ruler foot, so that when I nest my ruler up against this side of this foot here, I'm just going to place my ruler a 1/4 inch away from that intersection, and then I'm going to come down. All right, and just like before, we filled in that wiggly wormy stitch on the top side, and now the bottom side. And I'm just kind of making sure that I don't have any sharp points. I just want to do curvy points, curvy sides. Now the bottom. And now I'm here, and now I'm going to go and do this next row with my ruler and do my diagonals. And up. Okay, so now I'm going to look up at its neighbor and I'm going to say, okay, this one was empty, so I need to fill this one. And I'm not worrying about, oh, I did 3 spaghetti worms in that one, and so now I'm going to do 4 spaghetti worms, or make sure I do 3 in this next one. I'm just not going to worry about it that much. I didn't, I don't want to, especially this where it's more whimsical and it's not so straight and formal. By the time you get done, the eye just won't even be able to discern those changes. Okay, so let's just show this. Kelsey, I'll just do the one row. You guys saw it built out as two, but imagine this as a border design where you just do the one, well, I guess it's a two-story house, two floors to my house. And I've got my staircases, right? My diagonal staircases, and I have my little happy worm family that's walking up and down the staircases. So there you go. It gives you that hourglass, quarter square triangle. Did anybody put in the chat what they call it?
Barb calls it an hourglass.
Barb, yeah, I agree, Barb. I think it's an hourglass too, but I hear quarter square triangle all the time as well. So same thing. Did we have any other questions that came through? No? Okay, awesome. All right, well, I do want to thank our sponsor, APQS. APQS, along our machines, they're 100% handcrafted there in Iowa, and they are loved the world over. And of course, APQS machines come with that famous lifetime warranty. And if you are interested in an APQS machine, do contact your local dealer or your local store. We have long arm machines here at Quilt of Joy we'd be happy to talk to you about. We do have some demo machines currently that we'd be happy to talk to you about. You can also go to apqs.com and visit the factory page there. So thanks so much, APQS. All right, I have a looky-loo tour for you, and Chris showed off her space. You're going to be surprised, like I was, with when she turns the camera around. So I'm not going to give it away, but Chris was kind enough to spend some time with us the other day. So take a look at her space. Hi, Chris. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you.
Okay, where are you? Because I see things on your ceiling. Are you in a garage?
It's actually an oversized garage that we converted to our quilt room, our craft
Fabulous.
room.
And who is our?
I live with my sister. We both lost our husbands in 2018, and we're both crafters and quilters, and so we live together.
Awesome. And so you converted that garage to be your creative space. Can you turn the camera around so that we can
Sure.
see it?
Yeah.
A nice comfy chair.
Yeah, lots of chairs,
Fabulous. And
lots
you've
of
got
shelves.
like dueling pianos there. You each have your own. Wait, go back to your machines, to your domestic
Okay.
machines. So you each have your own machine.
Yeah.
And then you've got are there two long arms? There
Oh,
are
yes.
two long arms.
Yes.
Oh my goodness. So
Yeah,
you
Millie
have
and Lucy.
you have an APQS Millie and an APQS Lucy, and you guys can stitch together.
Yes.
What a dream.
Yes.
Oh, that's wonderful. Okay, so take us, I see you've got things loaded there to the machine. You've got some storage under the machine.
Yes, just some shelves that hold the our thread and tools,
Uh-huh.
our rulers.
And is there a batting bar that you have under that,
I
Lucy?
do not have a batting bar, but we do keep it underneath there.
Okay,
There's
it just
some
lives
underneath
under there.
both.
Uh-huh. Wonderful. Okay, so show us the storage on the walls there. You've got
Oh,
some really great. Oh,
yeah,
look at all that space.
We have several crafts, so it's mostly quilting and sewing, but up there I have doll making stuff. I mean, clothes.
Uh-huh.
I have granddaughters, and then there's some scrapbooking stuff on that end, and
Wonderful.
our quilt rack.
And you've got a comfy chair and a TV.
Yes.
Yeah.
And, yeah. We keep coffee out here.
Uh-huh.
And we have a sofa here. We do host a quilt guild once a month.
Oh, wow.
So
That's what the chairs
why
are for.
That's what all the chairs are for.
Yeah.
And then when I get motivated, I do exercise out here. But
All
that's
right.
it.
So that's your cutting table. Tell me about it. It looks like it's like cabinets from a kitchen.
Yes, we bought the cabinet from Habitat for Humanity, and used to be in a bank, and so it's really heavy and nice, and didn't have a back on it, so we had to put a back on it. And I already had the cabinet tops, so we just had it screwed down, and it's wonderful for cutting.
Is it on wheels as well?
No, it is not
No?
on wheels.
Yeah.
It's very heavy. It
Yeah,
won't
I
move.
bet. So that's where you do some cutting. Where are you doing your ironing? Because I think did we pass an ironing
It's right here,
surface? Right
right
there.
here,
And
right
so that's
there.
just an ironing board with a big board on top of it,
Yes, it is.
and you just have it at whatever height you need it to be at.
Yes,
And
that's correct.
is that a window right there?
No, it's a shelf. There's a light on over there.
Oh, got it. Okay, got it. Got it. Got it. All right. Well,
It's
so what was behind the couch? Now I'm curious because there was some
another
other
cabinet.
surface cabinet, and is that where you keep your thread?
Uh, no,
No.
that has lots of knitting and crocheting and supplies. My thread,
Yeah.
I don't want to move too fast, is over here in this cabinet.
Oh, the glass cabinet.
Yeah,
Oh, so it looks like candy.
yeah, it's very handy, and it's
Yeah.
separated by thread type, so I know where to go and grab and so on and so forth. So
And I see some pantographs there to your left. Is that
yes,
how?
we don't do many pantographs.
Mhm.
I like the front of the machine, so
Do
we
you?
do it when we're doing Quilts of Valor.
Yeah. Well, show me what you have loaded to your machine right now.
Well, I'm quilting a Quilt of Valor right now
Mhm.
for our,
Mhm.
our other quilt group. We do them, we've done over 40, maybe 60 of them this year.
Wow.
So that's loaded there. My sister gets mad at me when I keep taking her machine.
Oh, okay. That's her machine. Hers is the Lucy.
Well, it's, yeah,
Yeah.
we both use it, and then
Yeah.
I have a whole cloth
A whole
loaded over
class.
here.
Oh my goodness. Look at you go.
Yeah.
That's glorious.
So
And did you take a class to learn how to do a whole cloth?
I did from Karen McTavish.
Oh, lucky girl.
Yeah.
She's
Yeah. It
fabulous.
was fun. So she helped me design it, and I brought it home and loaded it. And I'm on the downward path on finishing
Yeah.
it. But
How long has
anyway,
it
it's
taken
been
you?
really fun. I've learned a lot. So now I'm thinking in the next one already. But
How long has that one taken you?
not, doing all the outlining of the blue that was drawn on didn't take all that long. I
Mhm.
don't know how much you can see. It didn't take all that long.
Ooh. That's
I don't
glorious.
know. I
And you
probably
used
added up the time about a week, but the background is
Yeah.
slowly working on me.
Yeah. And you've
So
got wool batting there because I see really great dimension.
yeah, I have Quilter's Dream wool and an 80/30 underneath.
Beautiful. Well, can
So
you turn the camera around so we can see your smiling face? Well, Chris, tell me 3 things that you would recommend to your bestie that may or may not be quilt related.
I don't know if I have three, but I can tell you the most important thing.
Yeah.
Find something you love to do, study it, learn it, find like-minded people, and just do it and have fun at it and enjoy it. It gives you so much extra in your life. And the better you do, the more you like to do it, I guess.
Yeah. If it makes your heart happy, do it.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for spending some time with us, Chris. It was lovely to see your space. I love that you took an existing space like a garage and reimagined it into a glorious quilting studio. So tell your sister I said hello.
I will. Thank you very much.
Okay. All right. We'll see you in the clubhouse.
All right. Bye-bye.
Okay. Bye.
Thank you so much, Chris. And Chris's sister, I think she was at the dentist that day, so I didn't get to say hello to Chris's sister. So hello, Chris's sister. Thank you so much for letting us take a look around your space, and I really enjoyed it. Dueling long arms, I love it. And then you took that garage and made it into a space where you can both feel creatively fed, and good for you. Thank you so much for the time that you spent with me. And I would appreciate if you would go over into the Facebook group, into our Quilt Joy Clubhouse, and just let Chris know how much you enjoyed seeing her space as well. And I did want to tell you about some new arrivals that we have here at the shop. And one of them is so adorable, and that is our Gnome for Christmas panel and kit. And we've got it all put together here. And what is crazy about this panel is that it looks like it's pieced, but it's not pieced. It is a panel. So it's just the panel with a couple of borders, a narrow red border, and then the gnome fabric, that black dancing gnome fabric around the outside. And it's all flannel, and it's so lovely and cushy. So take a look. We've got it as a kit that you can pick up with the pattern on the website, and then we do have the elements if you're interested in just the panel, or you're interested in just the red flannel snowflake fabric. We've got you covered. So we've got a lot of new, oh yeah, and it's behind me. Yeah, so it says all roads lead Gnome for Christmas, and it says there's no such thing as too many lights. Merry, Merry, Merry Christmas. No peeking until Christmas. Deck the halls. These might be for Santa, and he's carrying a glass of milk and some cookies. And then good tidings of cocoa and joy. So if you're looking for a fun project, maybe you've got a kiddo that you want to do a Christmas quilt with, and something snuggly and cozy, and the flannel is perfect for that. This particular kit would be perfect for that because it's really simple. You can get it done really quickly, and it's got all that snuggly goodness. So check that out on our website. And then Jesse, you said that Brenda had a question about seams that were pressed open, and isn't it important to have your patchwork be flat? Absolutely, Brenda, but there are so many ways to accomplish that do not involve seams that are pressed open, that do not limit your choices when it comes to the quilting process. So there are two things I love. My first love is a fabric folding pin. And we have those on the website. Maybe you could pop a link to them in the chat there. So it's a pin that you put like 4 drops of this solution. It's like a softener, and then you fill the rest of it up with water. And Brenda, when you paint that on the seam, it just kind of relaxes the fibers of the cotton, so that when you hit it with an iron, it lays flat. It does a really good job of making that seam lay flat. So if you find that when you're pressing, your seams aren't laying super flat, one, I would look at your pressing surface as well. So don't use an ironing surface that you would use to iron your clothes on with, because your clothing ironing board has some give to it, has some padding to it. And for patchwork, something that's a little flatter is going to be more kind and have your seams press more flat. So a wool mat, and we do have some wool mats. Maybe you could pop a link to our wool mats in the chat as well there. Our wool mats really hold the heat well, and they reflect it bottom. So you got your iron on the top, and then the wool is reflecting it from the bottom. And I tell you what, those two things, between that fabric folding pen and that wool mat, crazy flat. Your patchwork will be wonderful. So I just make the choice to not press open. I would say there might be 1% of patchwork that I might press open, and that's only because I'm kind of forced to. And I'm trying to think to give you an example of what that'd be, and nothing is coming to mind because it just doesn't happen that often. So I use that fabric folding pen, and then I use a nice hot iron, no steam, nice hot iron, and then that wool mat, and that'll help you get things to lay nice and flat. Okay, so in our Quilted Joy Clubhouse, we always ask folks to post a photo of an unquilted quilt top each month, and then I select one and show you how I would quilt it if it were my quilt. Okay, so here's the one that I selected, and this one is, Karen posted this, and so this was the one that I selected, and I just want to show you what my thoughts were. So my first thoughts were, because that background fabric is so deep and dark, I really wanted to give a lot of structure to the quilt, but I didn't, it's all polka dotted. So I knew that if I did a lot of quilting in there, it wouldn't show quite so much because the fabric's a little busier. So what I'm gonna do is just a straight line lattice, basically. So it kind of depends on how big your quilt top, your spaces that you can quilt within, whether you're using a domestic machine or a long arm machine. If you have a large throat machine, you could potentially do this in 2 rows at a time. I'm just going to do 1 row. So then this next row, I'm going to come back. And this structure here, and I would probably, when I'm thinking about colors of thread, I was kind of thinking about like a gray, like a battleship gray. And Jesse, I always forget, what is that most popular gray glide color that people love, 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 love? Although there's a new one out. Don't we have like a new one called Seagull?
Yeah, Seagull is really great. And then warm gray 4, between those two, one would be, the Seagull's going to be a little cooler than the
Warm gray 4 is cooler than Seagull. Yeah?
But those are both really great neutral choices.
Yeah, so we have 42, I think, new flavors of Glide, something like that in the 40s. 45 new flavors, and one of them is Seagull. It's a great neutral gray, and then that warm gray 4. Those two are great neutral colors. There's all kinds of new ones out there too. The other one that came out new that I really love is Fawn. It's another great neutral. Okay, so I would keep on keeping on, Karen. So I'm just gonna show you what it looks like all built out. So it gives you some lattice, it gives you some structure. But I would not use lime green thread, although, you know, you might, but I would use like a gray, something that's gonna kind of blend away so that you're just really just adding that structure. Okay, so now what I wanna do is I wanna deal with each of those diamond units. And I'm just gonna zoom in so that we can see things a little bit more clearly here, Karen. So I'm gonna zoom. And Brenda, I hope that answer about the wool mats and the fabric folding pin are helpful. I hope that was helpful to you. Okay, so let's look at how I would deal with these diamonds here. So for the diamonds, I'm going to take the opportunity when I come down and reach an intersection to go ahead and deal with the diamonds as I come to them so that I can do this all in one continuous path. But let me just show you how I did the diamonds and then I'll show you how to do the continuous path. So once I hit that magic portal, that intersection, I'm just going to go ahead and, oh, I don't have it on, that's why. There, okay. So now I'm just going to go ahead and go around my diamond. And then I want to keep in mind that this area right here might kind of be a stack seam. So I'm just going to kind of go with a swish around it. All right, I'm going to do that again. So I'm going to do a diamond, and then I'm going to do a swish. Oh, my pen going off. Do a swish and a swish, right? A diamond, and then I'm going to do a swish and a swish, and a diamond, and then I'm going to do a swish and a swish. And the thing is, all those swishes are different so that the eye doesn't like see any kind of symmetry. What it sees, the symmetry is your lattice and around your diamonds. And you could choose not even to stitch in the ditch. So for example, this one, if I went just to here, so I kind of made a smaller diamond inside that diamond, that might be enough quilting, just that. But you may find that you want to, you could even do a second one. Let's see, I was here. So that could also be a choice. Think about those grid designs that we've talked about throughout this year and how you could use those in a more diamond shape, because you could just do a simple ladybug hop. So just a simple arc. And you could even double it up if, I don't know how big these are, if need be. So those are 3 different choices, Karen, that you can put on those diamond shapes. And as far as the continuous path, you could also do these in one fell swoop just along, so I just want you to see this. If I wanted to do it in one fell swoop across a quilt, across the whole row, all right, then I'm going to come back and stitch, and that will get me all of those diamonds. And then I'm just going to do the top swish, the top swish, the top swish, the top swish, all the way across, and then I'm going to come back, and that will return me to where I started. Now, if you are a smarty pants, you've already figured out where those magic portals are. So I'm going to change my color because every time I reach one of these intersections here, every single time, I have the opportunity to drop in and deal with the diamond above it and the diamond below it. It depends on how much space I have to quilt in, how much room I have. Like if I have a Lenny machine, which is a 22-inch throat, depending on how big this is, I may have to do this in 2 passes. If I have a milli, I can probably do this whole thing in 1 pass. So just to give you a for instance. All right, so Karen, I'm going to turn that off and show you now. And I'm going to zoom out. And I didn't do it all, Karen, because I was doing this last night. And I thought you'd get the idea. I didn't have to do your whole quilt, but I thought you'd get the idea. So that's what it would look like, Karen. And you do your quilt however you want, Karen. But I would love to see what decisions you make and how it looks. So when you get it finished, definitely post it there in the clubhouse so we can celebrate you and celebrate your quilt and see what choices that you made. So I hope you like that, Karen. I hope that was helpful to you. And I do encourage you to take a look, and if you have a quilt that you would like to show off and perhaps have it be chosen in the clubhouse, then look for that call that we do at the end of each month for people to show us unquilted quilt tops that they want considered for this portion of the clubhouse meeting. Okay, so let's take a look at some of the finished quilts that have been posted in the clubhouse this month. So here's our show and tell, and I'm trying to go through. There it was. Oh, I think I went too far. Don't look. Okay, there. It wasn't listening to my clicks. Okay, so look at what Tammy put on there. Oh, Tammy, this is so gorgeous. So all that paper piecing, all that work. I love the little flying geese that are in the 4 corners with the color gradation. So Tammy says that a client paper pieced this wheels and gears quilt, and then they picked out designs that were freehand quilted in all the sections. So she's got some close-ups there in the clubhouse. You can see she's got some wishbones and some really great flying geese designs that are all free motion. So do go into the clubhouse and take a look at what she did. I think you'll love it. Deb posted this one. Don't you love the colors? So happy fall, Deb. So 20 years later, so I guess she pieced this 20 years ago, but now it's finally ready for binding. So she's been working with doing ruler work and free motion quilting. And by the way, this pattern is from one of my favorite designers, Terry Atkinson, and it's called Lucky Stars. And Deb says that it's not perfect, but it is done for fall. Okay, this one made us all laugh out loud. Virginia posted this one. So this one was from The Office. So I don't know if you remember the episode where Phyllis did a rabies quilt. But this is so funny. So it's the rabies quilt from the Office, and she says it was commissioned. She made it for a lover of the show, and she designed it based on that quilt block, those quilt blocks that Phyllis is holding up there. And this is where Meredith gets rabies, and they do the run for the cure. So too funny, and take a look at that kind of straight line chevron grid work that she did in the sashing. That's great, Virginia, so funny. And then Virginia also put this one up, and she says that these were whipped up for some refugees, and she sent out a plea to her friends in St. Louis, and then said that she would quilt them for free and donate them, and they just had to make the top. So she has been hard at work, and this piecing pattern is called Turning 20, and then she says the quilting designs are Cardamom Wave and Petal Flambe, and both of those are found over at Urban Elements. And then she also did some free motion wavy designs with bubbles and circles. Oh, Virginia, you are having fun. And Doris, love this. Look at all of the little witches' hats. So she says, this is my version of the Halloween haberdashery. And she was trying out the witch's hat. Kelsey, do you remember off the top of your head who designed this?
Melissa.
It's Melissa Mortensen. That's what I thought. So Melissa Mortensen, she's actually here in our town in Louisville, and this is the pattern that she designed. She's also a Riley Blake fabric designer. We love Melissa, and that's such a great quilt. Look at the little pumpkin's toe, so adorable. Thanks, Doris. Diana, oh my word, Diana, this is gorgeous. So Diana says this is her Bonnie Hunter's card party, and she quilted it with Glide. and that she just joined the group and that she's hoping to be inspired. Well, Diana, you inspired me. Look at all that piecing. The Bonnie Hunter fans out there, they come up with the most beautiful scrappy quilts and all the colors. And take a look at the pink that Diana threw into this quilt. And you might get a little bunched up when you see the pink laying there on your cutting table, but look at how effective those pops of pink are in her quilt. Nice job, Diana. And Karen, oh my goodness, Karen. Karen posted this one. So this one is a Judy Niemeyer, and Karen says this was her first Judy Niemeyer, and it's called Vintage Rose. And there's lots of feathers, straight line quilting, cross hatching, ruler work, and it's all free motion. Good for you, Karen. And she's got other photos there in the Quilted Joy Clubhouse that you can enjoy. She's got some curved cross hatching and feathers coming off of the points of that star. Just absolutely gorgeous. Thank you for posting that, Karen. And then Andrea, this was one of the two, she got 2 of our Halloween panels. And the name of those panels, in case you're looking for them, is Here We Glow. So they glow in the dark. We talked about this in our clubhouse meeting last week. So the little ghosts and the bats and the mummy and the little pumpkin faces, they all glow in the dark. Just adorable. So she picked up 2 of them, and she used the West Wind Halloween with Spider from My Creative Stitches. And she stitched it out with orange fabric, and she says that her girls are going to love them. Nice job, Andrea. And Kathy posted this one, and she is having so much fun doing feathers, and she did our garden gate feathers there in the borders. So good for you, Kathy. And she has feathers coming off the stars and those cornerstones as well. Love it, Kathy. I thank you so much for posting that. You are doing a great job. And Angela, this is so beautiful. Look at all the colors of the tulips going into the butterflies, just gorgeous. So she says this is a baby quilt that she finished on her sit-down mid-arm, and she echo quilted the butterflies and the tulips and put quilted swirls in the white space. And she did our daffodils. Oh, good. She did our daffodils in the green border and then stippled that outer white border. And so it is called Blooming Butterflies, and it's by Shabby Fabrics. And I love all of the dimensional prairie points along the outside. And then, of course, that stripy binding. You can never go wrong with stripy binding. So really nice, and we hope to see you in the clubhouse, and I'd love to see what you're working on. It's always fun to see what people have finished, and we want to give you a big applause when you do finish it, so do post it there in the clubhouse. All right, so next month will be on Wednesday, December the 1st at 1 o'clock Eastern, and we're going to talk about grid designs for floral quilts. And so there's some opportunities to kind of pull in that floral motif, but using grid design. So we're going to talk about grid designs for floral quilts. And then I invite you to join us on social. You can find us on Facebook. We have a Facebook page there for Quilted Joy, as well as our Quilted Joy Clubhouse group on Facebook. And then on Instagram, you can find us. We have a lot of photos that we put up of our renters and lots of beautiful quilts there on Instagram. And then, of course, on YouTube, we have a lot of tutorial videos, as well as some of the older Clubhouse meetings. They're all there on YouTube, so you can go back and rewatch whenever you want. All right, did we have any other questions that came through while we were chatting? Okay, you guys, I really appreciate all the time that you spent with me, and I will see you at our Ask Me Anything. That's in a couple weeks. That's November the 17th at 1 o'clock right here, and then our next Clubhouse meeting on December the 1st. All right, you guys, see ya. Bye.